mode.
Good morning and welcome to Geospatial Survey and Mapping webinar on GIS for Smart Cities. My name is Sonal Bahugna and I am Executive Editor of Geospatial Survey and Mapping and will be the coordinator of this webinar. Geospatial Survey and Mapping has been regularly publishing e-magazine covering geospatial technologies and their application. It is leading source of information for topics related to geospatial technologies in the field of survey and mapping. It publishes news, articles, interviews, podcasts, and tenders. Today we have Rajesh C. Mathur, Advisor, ISRI India. Mr. Rajesh C. Mathur is presently Advisor, ISRI India. At his current role, he is responsible for spearheading the growth of GIS deployment in India. Prior to that, he has held the position of Vice Chairman of the Board and President of the company. Mr. Mathur is an electrical engineer from IIT Delhi. He has attended Journal Management program conducted by Ross School of Business, University of Michigan. Mr. Mathur has been associated with the IT industry both in India and overseas for more than 3 decades. He has handled assignments in journal management, marketing, corporate planning, and international operations. Prior to this current assignment, he has worked with Wipro, IDM, and DCM Data System in India and USA. He is currently the president of Association of Geospatial Industries. He is also the chairman FICCI Committee on Geospatial Technologies. He has also served as the president, Indian Society of Geomatics. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Participants are requested to put their question in the question box. The questions will be taken after the webinar. Over to Mr. Rajesh Mathur.
Good morning. Can you see my screen? Oh, just a sec. Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir, I can see it now.
Okay, good. Good morning. And I would like to thank Manish Prasad and his team for inviting me to address this webinar on role of GIS, or rather I would say geospatial technologies for smart cities. Just to set the context, few things, I'm just trying to get it over there. Oh, there we are. Okay, just to set the context right, I thought I'd share some published by McKinsey Global Institute a few years ago. As estimate by we will live in our country, 87 cities in India will have a population of more than a million. Currently, the number is 53. This would require a huge investment to create the infrastructure and other amenities that these as the population explosion happens in urban India. And one will have to be invested in just building their infrastructure. 7,400 kilometers of metro will have to be constructed, 20 times the capacity added in the last decade, and about 2.5 billion square meters of roads will have to be paved, again 20 times the capacity added in the past decade. Clearly a huge challenge. Big investment is required to really prepare the cities for this huge change that we expect in the population. What we really need to do is to build smart communities. Just putting money into this infrastructure clearly will not be enough. We really need to make these cities, the communities, a lot smarter than they are today, and we'll talk about how in the next few minutes. We have huge challenges that we have to deal with, and therefore we need to prepare the cities or the communities for the kind of requirement that will be called upon them. What would be a smart community? We keep hearing about this term smart communities, smart cities on an ongoing basis. What does it really mean in our context? What it means to me is adequate water supply, 24/7 clean potable water, assured power supply, again clean power, uninterrupted power available to all the communities, sanitation, solid waste management, also urban mobility, public transport, which reduce the need for private transport on the roads, which not impact congestion on the roads, but also pollution, something people in Delhi are very familiar with. Affordable housing, especially for the poor, Wi-Fi connectivity, IT connectivity, making sure that all the citizens are connected, and of course digitization of the infrastructure of the services and all the interface points between citizens and the government. Good governance, of course, undoubtedly is a key requirement to make all this happen. E-governance and citizen participation. Also environment which is sustainable from not just in sustainability in terms, but we can even go a step further and say the cities need to be sustainable economically also, and we'll talk about it, what it really means. Making a city secure, making cities safe for all citizens, women, children, and the elderly, of course. Quality healthcare and education infrastructure. To me, these are some of the key requirements of a smart community. And geospatial technologies will have a major role to play in all stages of development of smart communities, right from urban planning and design to operations and sustenance. GIS would be an enabling technology. It will be at the core of most of the IT infrastructure that would have been created, both to build decision support systems to enable more informed decisions by the bureaucrats and administrators, entering the way citizens connect with the government, and therefore has to move to what you may call geo-enabled governance, which will provide much better interface points between the citizens and the decision makers. What could be some of the applications of geospatial technologies in smart cities development, planning, construction, going all the way to operations and sustenance, as we talked about earlier? Number of applications. The foundation of any urban project, if you will, would be a very robust land information system, building cadastral database of the entire city, identifying every land parcel, which will help us in taking a more comprehensive, a more integrated view of land parcels in a number of areas, application areas. It could be valuation, if you are acquiring land for development work, depending on the current land use, there will be a number of parameters on which you have to assess the property, the land parcel, which will help in valuation. If it's agricultural land, you may like to see a crop pattern. Also, you may like to see other parameters like proximity to a highway, national highway, state highway, and other infrastructure, railway stations, public transport facilities, and so on, which will have a direct bearing on how the property is valued. And this information system will really help us in doing it more objectively and more accurately. Also, giving various approval, construction approvals, etc., various land-related transactions, land mutation, and so on. Each of these applications will be enabled by a comprehensive cadastral database built using geospatial. The next would be GIS ready. Why GIS ready? Allow us to add information layers over the existing base data that's created by the urban local bodies, and also building spatial correlation. So when you're providing different facilities, you may define a set of rules. No child will walk or travel, let's say, more than 1 or 2 kilometers to get to a primary school, or 3 kilometers to go to a secondary school, or whatever the rules are. You define the rules, and once your base master plan is available in digital form, in a GIS ready form, if you will, it helps us in identifying suitable sites for it, for schools, for colleges, for other amenities, hospitals, and other healthcare facilities. It will also help us in analyzing the current land use and the land use plan for the area being developed. Various other facilities like building transportation options, demographic analysis, which will help us in turn in defining what other amenities would be required depending on the profile of people who are going to reside in different parts of the developed area, and enable sustainable development. We move on to building information management. During the construction stage, there will be a number of areas where geospatial technology would be used in both external and internal to the building. Even 3D visualization of the site which is coming up even before it's constructed. Energy analysis, where are you going to locate solar cells if you want to bring that in as one of the sources of energy, renewable energy. Depending on the direction of the sun, what would be the most optimum location for solar cells, in what directions, and so on. Evacuation planning in event of a disaster, a fire or any other hazard. How do you provide for all this? So all this would really require a comprehensive building information management system, which can be created using geospatial. We talked about safe cities earlier. So you clearly require a very smart surveillance and monitoring system to secure the city. Identify locations which would be used for providing CCTVs, for instance, in case of cameras, if you want to install them with selections to keep track of what's happening on the ground, which would be the right locations for those CCTV cameras. Fly-through analysis to visualize the ground realities. Geofencing, especially if you're having an event over there and where there'll be gathering of a large number of people, could be a religious event, could be a political rally, could be a social event, could be anything. And therefore identifying which are the areas where you'll have large mass of population converging for a few hours, making provision for that and ensuring that you are able to secure that area from possible threats to the area. One of the foundations of a good smart city would be a very efficient public transport system. That's one of the challenges most cities face in our own country and elsewhere in the world. How do you provide a multimodal transport system to the citizens to minimize the pain they go through as they commute to the place of work, to the schools or college or wherever they do move on an ongoing basis? So you have to look at the pattern of traffic. You have to identify which are the commercial areas where there will be a lot of traffic during the day, where are the schools located, where are other facilities located. And so from the locations, from the areas where people will be residing to the areas which are commercial hubs of the city, what are the travel options available, which could more often than not be a mix of multiple modes of transport. And when we talk about multimodal transport system, I guess one of the examples that come to mind is the city of Mumbai. I'm sure you're familiar with the mode of transport people in Mumbai normally use. The local trains, of course, they're becoming a little difficult to commute by because the number of people who travel by them. But the city planners clearly provided for what I would call a good example of multimodal transport system. If you visit the suburbs of Mumbai, at every suburban station, there is also a hub of the best buses. So you get off the train and you will find a bus stand right outside the station, which will take you someplace close to your home. That's the kind of system you need to develop, and there could be multiple modes of transport normally citizens would adopt when they commute from the place of residence to the place of work and back. Geospatial technology can help you in building those kind of plans, the fastest route, the shortest routes, and so on and so forth. The service areas for the public transport, be it the metro or the buses, and so on. Utilities would be yet another major application areas in a smart community, smart city. It could be water, it could be wastewater, could be power distribution, gas distribution, so on. And there are a number of applications, right from asset management, network planning, and design, integration with various other utilities, at least SCADA systems, so you can real-time data. And if you find any aberration, you could determine what is the cause of that aberration in any of the parameters, like low pressure in a water pipe, a water monitoring station, water pressure monitoring station, which could mean maybe some leakage in the upstream, or any aberration in electrical network, which could be causing voltage dropping and so on and so forth. So all these aberrations through an online SCADA system can be mapped on a GIS database and then help utilities in getting ready for a possible outage because of the disturbance in the system. Also capacity planning, business intelligence, which are the where are the customers located, what are the load pattern, and so on and so forth. And of course, as I said earlier, integration with not just SCADA, with a number of other systems, distribution management system, customer relationship management system, CRM, ERP, and so on. We talked about economic sustenance as yet another fundamental requirement for smart city. How do you create opportunities for the residents, employment opportunities? And therefore, you have to identify which are the areas where businesses can be located. And not just that, but even you look at the normal, when retail organizations plan their outlet to service the needs of the local residents, again, geospatial would be one of the core technologies. You can use GIS to do demographic segmentation of the entire area of interest. Based on that, you determine other kind of products and services residents will require in different parts of the city, and make sure that those kind of services are provided at the right places, conveniently located, and so on. Healthcare, yet another important and extremely important component of any city, smart community, whatever you call it. And here again, geospatial technologies have a very fundamental role to play. Identifying which are the locations where health centers should be created to survey the needs of the local residents, identifying which are the areas which are vulnerable, the mosquito breeding possibilities, which are the area vulnerable to that. If there's any disease outbreak, very quickly identifying which are the hotspots which have been affected by it. How do you cordon that off that area and build a strategy to attend to the problems that you have. Also, what could be the communities, what communities could be at risk if there's any contamination of the water, which are the areas which have been serviced by the source of the water, and therefore which communities are at risk. Also identifying what kind of medicine should be stopped. And recently I came across a very interesting application. It's a pharmacy in the US, and they have centers all over the country. And what they do is they have, apart from the normal prescription drugs that they sell, there are several medicines or drugs which are sold across the counter for which one doesn't need a prescription. So they keep track of the sale of those over-the-counter drugs on an ongoing basis. If they find that any specific kind of drug is selling in volume larger than normal, they kind of alert authorities that maybe there is a possibility of outbreak of a certain disease in that area because more and more people are coming and taking over-the-counter drugs for it. Again, an area where the authorities can then map it on a GIS database and see which communities could be possibly at risk because of the possibility of an outbreak, and a number of other areas where you can use GIS for a possible outbreak, attending to it, and so on. You all heard about Ebola outbreak in Western Africa in 2014, and we read in the paper recently that WHO has declared that West Africa is Ebola free now. It's now well under control. I had the opportunity to attend a presentation by a doctor from WHO who was leading the World Health Organization team in West Africa. And he talked about how they use GIS to map the occurrences of this disease in different parts of the various countries and affected areas, identified what communities, again, as I said earlier, could be at risk because, as you know, it's a highly contagious disease. So once an incident is reported, they have to virtually cordon off that area to prevent any further spread in that area. So GIS was one of the core technologies that really came to that help in modeling all these risks and then preparing for possible spread. Another application where geospatial technologies are being used quite extensively by cities across the world, including in our own country, is disaster management, emergency response, and so on. Several examples, and one example that's always worth talking about when we discuss applications of geospatial technologies in India is how technology was used when we had the Hudhud cyclone year and a half ago. I'm sure you are all aware of the Hudhud cyclone which hit east coast of the country, I think in 2014. It was a severe cyclone as classified by the weather authorities. And before the cyclone had a landfall, its progress was being monitored by Department of Space. So various agencies worked together in COIS in Hyderabad, Indian Center for Oceanographic Information System, NRSC, AP Remote Sensing Centers, and they modeled completely the path of the disaster using GIS technology. Of course, they modeled it and identified where the landfall will possibly occur. So which communities were at risk who could come in harm's way, alerted the administration. And as you would have read probably, Hudhud cyclone
Hello.
severe cyclone and disaster
So,
and
so,
help administration in
so just want
dealing
to
with it
interrupt
even
you.
before the disaster struck. Yes.
So we lost you for a couple of minutes.
So yes, and okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, it's clear now.
Okay, cool. So I was basically talking about how GIS technology was used during the Hudhud cyclone on the east coast of India a year and a half ago. How various agencies like INCOIS, APR's Remote Sensing Center, and NRSC worked together in modeling this cyclone and the place where the landfall will occur, where it is going to hit the ground, the land rather, which villages, which cities would come in harm's way. And they alerted the administration sufficiently in advance because they could evacuate some 4 lakh people to safe areas and saved huge number of lives. A real good example of how technology has helped administration in dealing with what could have been a severe crisis to deal with. It's a very good example, I think, of how this technology is helping in saving lives. GIS, of course, finds use in different aspects preparation, post and reconstruction. On the screen, you'll find some and this portal using the technology, it was those days, 2001, depicts the impact of that earthquake right up to village level for each village projected data like how many houses have been damaged, kacha houses, pakka houses, casualties, heads of cattle with perished, and so on. It helped not only the administrators but all funding agencies like World Bank, ADB, NGOs who are coming forward to support the administration in to plan and implement those plans for the betterment of the society, of the affected people. So as I said earlier, the number of case studies, number of application areas, and it's a technology that can really help cities prepare for a major emergency and then when it occurs, dealing with it. E-governance, we talked about it earlier. The now government can become more efficient, strengthen the efficiency, increase citizen engagement, build facilities, and administer various policies in a more effective manner, ensuring that there's adequate funds allocation for various government schemes, city, allocation, how much have been disbursed, what's the progress of the project, most important. Money may be allocated and disbursed, but how has it been utilized? Has it achieved the planned outcome or not? So those are the kind of areas where GIS can really help in building a more effective system to monitor the progress and take correct action wherever there is a need for it. Number of other ways where GIS property tax
Hello?
income.
I think we have lost him again for some time. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir, we lost you again from the starting of the slide.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about this. Legislation has multiple sources of income. Of course, the property tax a year. Other taxes. However, the important thing is if the sales are high, the economy is booming, VAT will be high, and so on. So, but it's not a source of income on which they have any direct control. There's total happening in the city. Property tax is the only earn in several cities and increase the earnings substantially. So that is, to me, that's a low-hanging they can not receiving from 40 to in most Indians in some cases. It's truly astronomical figure. And if municipal authorities can bring it down to single digit, that'll make a huge difference again to their income, make the whole system more efficient. They would and the causes of high NRW may not just be pilferage or not unbilled unbilled water, so to speak. In some cases, there could be a leakage happening in the whole network, and so they can build a system to respond to those leakages real fast. They can put NRW under check, and again, GIS can be a major enabling technology to make it happen. There are success stories like in Manila Water had an NRW and they brought it down to now. Then I see no reason why it achieves improvement in the coming years. Definitely, initiative of that kind will make the whole system more efficient and lot smarter. Because if NRW reduce, there's more money available with the water authorities, which they can put back into improving facilities that they provide to the citizens. Solid waste management is yet another important area. It's a huge challenge for various cities. In city like Delhi, every day Delhi generates about 8,000 tons of solid waste. It's a huge challenge for the municipal authorities to deal with it. And GIS can help in identifying landfill sites where the solid waste can be dumped, so to speak. Also, map the pickup trucks movement on the roads, identify which are the areas where temporary dumping ground can be located, where citizens place their garbage, from where it be collected, and so on. And of course, grievance handling, citizen interface. Citizen engagement is yet another area where yes, is giving communicate with the municipal bodies. You come across a hydrant, quickly take a photograph and upload it on the municipal corporation system. If your mobile phone is location aware, if your GPRS enabled, the location will also get captured automatically, and therefore authorities can take corrective action as soon as required. The number of other areas, if they to send out messages, there's any event happening, and can have to send out service which can be sent, the message sent to all those who are on the network, including the location with the maps. If this event is happening, this is the place where it's going to happen, this is where parking is going to be arranged, and so on. And of course, GIS enables everybody, all stakeholders, to have a common operational picture. It builds it makes the whole process more efficient, more transparent. It allows all stakeholders, as I said earlier, be it administrators, be it NGOs, citizens, service providers, everybody be on the same page. We all work on the same data, which brings in more consistency and accuracy and decision and the operations in general. About status of various projects. Allocated, you may not be able to monitor the progress. And so you can build a GIS-based dashboard to monitor the progress of various projects approved and an implementation. Also dashboard for administrators to keep track of, for instance, utilities. If there's talked about NRW, water pilferage or leakage, dashboard can give you the status of where it's occurring, which are the households which are going to be affected because of it when there's a planned outage and repair work being carried out. It'll also help administrators in knowing on a property tax which are the areas where there are defaulters, the maximum defaulters, if you will, and therefore you may have to deal with the people who are responsible for that area and seeing what can be done to correct the situation. So a dashboard can be really extremely powerful platform to keep track of the progress of various initiatives, various operational aspects of municipal corporations' areas of activities and take corrective action wherever required. Finally, all this looks nice. How do you make it happen? So I would like to conclude with this slide. It's a what you may call a high-level solution architecture for a city. At the bottom of the slide, you see various data servers which are maintained by different agencies, and they are available on whenever required by a service platform. We'll come back to it in a minute. So for instance, you have a database of which health centers and other amenities, schools, and so on. A topographic database which probably will be hosted on a national mapping agency platform, in this case Survey of India maybe. An imagery database could be available from National Remote Sensing Center, or there could be similar platforms in public domain as well. A property database, which is all the property identified with a lot of attribute information, property owner, and so on. Various utility networks, the water pipeline, the power cables, the telephone line, gas pipelines, and wastewater, sewage pipes running through the city underground. Also, places of tourist interest. So essentially, various data servers are being maintained by the respective agencies. They are accessible from a network bus, which really will be a federated system, a federated server, which allow various applications to access whatever data is required for any specific application. You'll have access to geodatabases, you'll have access to maybe various maps, imageries, also various services, OGC compliant services, globe services, feature services being hosted on this platform, and of course, set of applications, property tax, utilities, and so on, which can be accessed and consumed by using any of these devices. You could use a desktop, you could use a browser, you could maybe access some of them using a mobile phone, mobile devices. You will also have open APIs, so other entities can integrate their own applications. So, there's a lot of talk about startups who are building different apps. So a lot of those apps can be enabled, CAP services and so on, which can be enabled through this platform, and even those service providers can use the open APIs available on this platform and link up their applications on it. And of course, you can have a public platform like GIS Online, which has a host of services available on the cloud. So this really could be like an enterprise architecture for a system that a municipal corporation should implement at the city level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the presentation. So we have a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
So the question says how GIS will help smart transport, that is connected vehicles, smart parking, etc. How long it will take India to actually use connected vehicle and smart parking?
Well, smart parking, I think, has already been tried in India. And well, I'm not sure what smart parking means, but from a, if I was a driver, for me, smart parking is the ability to know at any moment in a certain neighborhood, like Connaught Place area in Delhi, where can I park my vehicle, where the slots are currently available. The parking lot may be there, but the slot may not be available. So I think those systems are being developed. I saw one in Connaught Place the other day, on Janpath, where there's a small screen outside at the entrance to the parking lot, which displays the number of slots available at a given moment. So I think the technology exists. Technology is certainly not a bottleneck. It's just a question of more and more parking lots adopting the technology and making use of it. How long will it take in India? I think really up to us. It's really up to us how fast we can adopt technology. I guess the challenge for many of these applications is getting the base data ready, because all these GIS applications and many more will require a reasonably accurate authenticated, authoritative data available for the cities. Most importantly, the data should be shareable in a more collaborative manner, and that may require maybe a rethink on some of the existing policies of our country. Because very often we find that when a new project is launched, we have to reinvest in data creation. It's expensive and more importantly time consuming. So if data which is interoperable, standards based is made available to all those who can benefit from it, that's what we need to do. The good news is today's technology allows you to share your data without necessarily enabling people to download it. So if people are protective about losing their data, so to speak, they can just provide access to it and people can consume it by way of application. Data as a service is feasible. The platform I showed you in my last slide allows you to expose data as a service which are enabled by different applications. So whether it's smart parking or any other application. Once the data is available, then it's a question of building those applications and linking them up to this platform.
Okay, sir. So there's another question. It says, any city implemented all these modules as mentioned in the PPT in India?
Uh, I think different cities have implemented different parts of it. I'm not sure if anybody has done a comprehensive implementation. For instance, you would have seen the Kanpur Municipal Corporation slide in one of the application areas. They've done a real good job in implementation of property tax, which is based on a GIS system. Mumbai has done a lot of work. Mumbai has done a lot of work. Well, Bangalore has also done property tax again on a GIS base. Mumbai has done wastewater distribution, for instance, and a few other applications. But has any city done all of them? I'm not aware of it. No.
Okay, sir. So another question is, where one can get appropriate training for GIS software in India?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, it depends on what your requirement is. If you are looking for a proper master's program, an MTech or equivalent, NIT University in Nimrata, Rajasthan, CPT University in Ahmedabad, Symbiosis, Symbiosis Institute of Geoinformatics in Pune, Anna University in Chennai, and so on. JNTU, Jawaharlal Technological University in Hyderabad, and many others. These are the institutions which are offering a full career training program, a 2-year course, MTech or equivalent, on geospatial. Well, some people call it GIS, some people call it remote sensing, but some people call it geoinformatics. That's all career training available to somebody who wants to make a career in this technology. If you look at short-term courses, I'm not sure. I think, well, one of the ways could be contact some of the companies. My company offers some short-term programs, like a 1-week program or something, HC India. So maybe you could get in touch with the local HC India office and explore with them.
Okay, sir. So there's a question. It says, what is the SDI status at smart city development using GIS cannot be done without the effective and working SDI?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, sir. It says, what is the SDI status
Can
at
you
smart?
repeat the question?
So it says, am I audible now?
Partly, your voice was breaking, so if you could repeat it again.
So it says, what is the SDI status at smart cities development using GIS cannot be done without an effective and working SDI?
That's a tough one to deal with. See, SDI would provide a means to an end. SDI would provide the foundation. And SDIs, the way they are being created in India, are creating, I won't say clearing house, but most of them are hosting metadata. in terms of what's available where. In my view, smart cities have to build their own ecosystem. See, a city has its own ecosystem where there are multiple participating agencies. For instance, municipal corporation will have a host of feature types. The base maps, it would be property boundaries, about land parcels depicting different properties with their attribute data, waste, utilities, places of interest, amenities, schools, colleges, hospitals, and so on. And there'll be a lot of service providers who would keep enriching it with their own feature types. For instance, somebody may create a feature layer which has all the taxi stands in the city, where are they located. Somebody may put on all the shopping malls over there, somebody may put something else. And therefore, what we really need to do is create a comprehensive platform which will provide access to each of these data layers and add value to it. Likewise, there could be app developers who create applications. For instance, if your board exams happening in a city, where the students are told your center will be that school, they may or may not know where the center is located. So what if somebody created a new feature layer which has all the schools located, all the centers where board exams are going to be conducted, and put it on the base map? All that has to be done at the city level. I think if you try to link it up to SDI, it'll make the whole process far too complicated. I've been involved with the Energy initiative for many years. I was a member of the task force which was set up by DST back in 2001, 2002, I think. And one of the challenges we often faced was reluctance on the part of some mapping agencies to share their data. And therefore, if you want agencies to part with the data, it's going to be difficult. It's difficult not in our country, it's difficult in probably most parts of the world. People are very possessive of the data. So what we are saying is, keep the data with the owner, the creator. However, make sure that it's accessible and consumable as a service. There are some prerequisites for it. It should be standards based, and therefore so that it's interoperable. It should work around a comprehensive data model, which is extensible, scalable, and so on. So these are some of the design issues you have to deal with when you build it. But I am a strong advocate of building federated systems, and in a smart city context, creating a city level ecosystem which is standards based, which can link up with other cities and other data sets where SDI would be playing a major role in providing that access. But don't make it a part of SDI.
Okay, sir, there's another question. It says, do you really think the milestones set by Government of India for smart cities are achievable?
I'm not sure what the milestones are. If we are saying that in the 5 years time frame, 100 cities will implement all the applications which have been listed, I don't think it's going to happen. And I have a feeling even the government doesn't expect that to happen. See, each city has unique characteristics. Each city has some very high priority requirements which need to be attended to on top priority. So if each city can prioritize one or two application areas which are really critical for them and just focus on them and deal with them, and you say smarten them up, my guess is you have made enormous progress. Enormous progress. What's more, you will have several best practices developed across the country which can then be shared with others. And so in the next phase, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What's already happened will be scaled up and implemented nationally by 100 cities, maybe 500 cities then. So we have to be realistic about setting our goals and focus on the outcome, and not just if you were ticking the box that have I done water? Yes, I have done water. Have I done property tax? Yes, I have done property tax. That is not the purpose. The purpose should be, these are the 2 or 3 real challenges that the city is facing. Let's fix them. And to me, that would be good smart city. Frankly, I'm not aware of a single city in the world which is smart by the definition that you find in the smart city document. Every city, even outside the country also, has focused on a few, one or two or three application areas and project and become smart, so to speak. I think that's the approach we should take.
Okay, sir. So there's the last question we are taking. It says, do you have an ideal city that you want to quote that you say it's a complete smart city in the word?
I said just now there's no city, but my guess is, again, this is based on what I heard from my colleagues at SC in US. The city that comes closest to being smart probably is Singapore.
Hello. Hello.
London and a few other cities.
So we lost you again for.
Okay, I'll answer that question again. I said earlier also that I'm not aware of any city in the world which is smart. If you, the definition is all these applications have become smart. My understanding from my colleagues at SRE Inc. US is different cities have adopted different cities have implemented projects in specific application areas which are priority for them and become smart, but not all applications. The city that comes closest to smartness globally, I'm told, is Singapore. There are other examples, but like Barcelona, Madrid, Moscow, London, and a few others, but I'm told Singapore comes closest.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And thank you all the participants for being
Thank you.
with us. We'll have the recording of this webinar placed in our webinar archive for future reference and viewing at a later date. Thank you all for joining us today. Keep you posted on our further activities on our web portal. Thank you.